Here's why training 5 days a week is keeping you soft, out of shape and unfit. And here's what to do instead. Because if you've got a demanding job, a family and a week that's already rammed, the answer probably isn't finding another 2 days in the gym a week to train, because you don't have that. And even if you did, you probably don't want your entire life revolving around training just to look like someone who lifts and trains. This short training is going to teach you how to get leaner, stronger and fitter, training on just 2 to 4 sessions a week without training taking over your life. And this isn't just something that sounds good on paper. And we've got Chris, who went from fat friend to a jack dad in 6 months and only 4 sessions a week. This is while managing a team in a time pressured job and also making sure that he had time for his family. And then you've got Lee, who almost didn't join because he genuinely thought he had no time, especially around his demanding career as an engineer, along with having 2 daughters he had to look after. On top of that, he trained himself a lot, so he sort of knew what he was doing. He now trains 4 times a week and is the leanest, fittest and strongest he's ever been. Then we have Chantel, who's running a hairdressing business on her own, whilst being a single mum who dropped 14 kilos to be the leanest, strongest version of herself so she could be a role model to her son. Then we've got Rick, who trained twice a week and got absolutely shredded whilst working 20-hour night shifts on minimal sleep and a lot of hunger, but still managed to do it because he had a system in place that helped him. And then there was Ben, who originally came for the fat loss but actually started to turn into something else. Rather than just living his whole life drinking Monster and smoking cigarettes, he actually became something of a beast of habit, and he became this version of himself that he wanted to be his whole life, but he didn't know how to quite unlock it. And then you've got Callum, military sergeant, knew exactly what to do. He had the knowledge. He knew how to apply it. He just didn't have the guidance on the weeks that were shit, the weeks where he was on tour, and the weeks that were just crammed full of things that he just didn't have time for. So in order for him to do that, he wants something taken off his plate. And we dropped him 10 kilos to get him photo shoot lean. On top of that, he was fitter than most of the core units that came in that were 10 years younger than him. None of these people suddenly found free time. We just started to dissect their week so we could find out what actually worked for them with the careers and the demands they had in life. They just stopped trying to train like people that had 10+ hours a week to train. And I know what it feels like to put all the effort in and not get anything back out of it. Even all that effort that is directed into doing the one thing, dropping body fat or getting fitter, just something didn't quite click. 4 years ago, I was nearly 18 stone. I was unfit, out of shape, and I hated the look of myself. I couldn't even play rugby because I couldn't keep up with the demands of the game. There's something I loved so much. The annoying thing was, I was someone that became someone who let himself go. I trained for years. I knew my way around the gym. I'm a coach myself. You wouldn't have thought my body reflected the amount of work I was putting in. I'd train hard when I could, but then one missed session because things got busy, one skipped meal, and then I'd have the same conversation with myself, right, back at it again Monday. You know that whole spiel. I needed something that I could actually do when my life wasn't perfect. So instead of building my week around training, I started fitting training in around the life that I actually led. Demanding career as a business owner, running a small family, social occasions, the works. Not the week that was perfect or that I wish I had, because let's be honest, it's never fucking perfect. Not what I'd do when life just all of a sudden stopped being busy. The week and the time that I actually had. And that's literally what changed everything. Because the problem isn't you don't work hard enough. And that's why it's so frustrating. So trust me, you're not lazy. You're probably a person that everyone relies on. You'll stay late when something needs finishing. You'll sort the kids later. You'll deal with whatever gets thrown at you. Heck, you'll probably even chuck in a new work project because you can. But when it comes to yourself, you're trying to squeeze in whatever time you have left into the scraps of week you have left over from everything else. And then you're told me the answer is to do more. Are you alright? Train 5 days, do your cardio, 12,000 steps, sleep 8 hours a night, do 35 meals of meal prep, drink 4 litres of water, have an ice bath, have the perfect morning routine. Mental. Maintain all of that while trying to get everything else you're responsible for in order. You might be able to do it for a couple of weeks, you might man it out and do it for a couple of months. Then life will get busy again and the cycle will repeat because that whole system relies on you to do everything. And then suddenly it feels like you're doing nothing. And that's why it feels like Groundhog Day. Monday comes around and you're back on it, your sessions are planned, your meals are prepped. This week, it's gonna be different. And then Tuesday comes around and something throws a spanner in the works. Wednesday, one of your kids needs something. Thursday, you're knackered and you've only got 20 minutes to train. So you think, what's the point? I can't even get the full session done anyway. One takeaway becomes a shit day becomes a weekend, and then it's, I'll sort it Monday. We know how that goes. And the frustrating part is you probably know what to do. You're not lack of knowledge. Knowledge is rife. Maybe you've trained for years. You probably know that protein is good for you by now. Well, I hope so anyway. You probably know you should eat fewer takeaways. You know you need to move more. You probably know 3 pints in a kebab aren't helping. And you definitely don't need someone to explain what a calorie is. Knowledge and knowing aren't your issue. Let me tell you that right now. Doing it consistently when you've got 14 other things vying for your attention is. And that's literally what changed for me. I stopped needing a good week, a perfect week, 100% week to need progress. And that is such a bigger deal after you turn 30 than you actually realise. You don't suddenly wake up one morning feeling fat, unfit and weak. It creeps up on you. You used to be the fit one. You might have been able to play sport. You might have been athletic at some point. You could train hard, run around all day, but that was before life started taking from you. Someone would ask you to jump on a 5K or maybe help them move house, or maybe just carrying the shopping in and you didn't even think anything of it. Now you're double guessing yourself. You notice you're getting out of breath when things really shouldn't be getting you out of breath like they should. You're still probably reasonably strong, but one set is making you blow out your arse a little bit too much. Your t-shirts fit tight around your shoulders but are a bit tight around your belly. And you avoid certain clothes. You might have even chucked some out because you know for a fact they ain't going to fit right on you. And then every now and again, Facebook will throw you a photo and you'll look at it and go, oh, I used to look alright back then. And then you'll blame it on age. And that's the thing that I think people don't talk about enough, is the slow creep up. It's not just gaining a bit of weight that's the issue for you. You know you're more capable than you're currently showing. And that would me right off because you're doing everything right everywhere else. You've got a good career, it's moving forward, the family's looked after. Your responsibilities are pretty much handled. Yet this one part of your life that used to feel like you keeps going further and further away. And you just get pushed further and further down the list. So you tell yourself it's because you've got older, then it's because you've got busier, and then you haven't got time you used to have. And some of it's true, but here's where I would disagree. You don't need the time you used to have, you need to stop training like you had that time. You don't need 5 perfect training days, you need 2 to 4 sessions that fit around your life. And you definitely don't need your entire life revolving around just getting fit. It should be a byproduct. And that's the idea behind the Ascension Forge. It's a system I've created in alpha to get you leaner, stronger and fitter, without your week suddenly needing to be less mental than it already is. And we do that through 3 things. First, we work out what you can actually train, not what you should be able to do. Not what some program says, what you can actually train. If that's 3 30 to 45 minute sessions, good, that's what we'll work with. If one week you can do 4 and the next week is absolute chaos at work and family life and you can only do 2, sweet, we'll work with it. But what we'll do is we'll make those sessions fucking count. You're getting stronger, you're building muscle, you're getting fitter, you're moving better, and you're getting out knowing you've actually achieved something as opposed to just leaving it to the wayside. And that's how Chris became jacked and powerful in 6 months. He was also fitter than half his hockey team that were 15 years younger than him. Not because he trained consistently, because the training he actually did mattered. Second, we sort your food out without making eating another full-time job, because you probably don't need another meal plan. You need to know what to do when you haven't prepped meals and you have to resort to plan B, which you probably haven't had before. What to eat when the family wants takeaway but you want to fuel your body so you don't get left feeling guilty. And how to go out for a meal without feeling like a dickhead and going out with a Tupperware box full of rice and chicken. And how much you actually need to eat to get leaner for longer and fuel your body without spending your entire day hungry and thinking about food. That's what Chantel did. Remember, single mum, running a business, 14 kilo down? That one? Her life didn't stop being busy, especially when you're a single mum. She just stopped needing everything to be perfect to eat well. And third, we stopped one bad day turning into a bad month. Because that's normally where people become unstuck. Not because they missed Tuesday's workout, no. Because missing Tuesday all of a sudden becomes, I've fucked this week now. Not because they had a takeaway, because the takeaway becomes Friday, Saturday and Sunday, written off before Monday even starts. I don't really care about building you some routine that's perfect, that only fits when the kids aren't ill or work's not chaotic, or when life throws something at you. I want you to become incredible at moving when life isn't ideal. Sometimes that's 4 brilliant sessions, sometimes it's getting 2 done and keeping your food roughly where it needs to be. And sometimes it's working on a completely fucked week that's looking at the 30 minutes you do have rather than the 90 minutes you don't. And that's how you stop constantly starting again. Not because you read a book about motivation discipline, that'll come in heaps and troughs down the line, because you've got evidence. You said you'd do something and you did it. Then you did it again and again, and now you've stacked proof. Even when work was mental, even when you were tired, even when you couldn't do everything perfectly. And that's Lee. Remember the busy engineer? 2 kids, leanest, strongest and fittest of his life? That is him, because he thought he didn't have any time, but he still did it with the time he did have. He didn't become less busy, he just got better at building a plan around him. But Toby, what should I do if I've only got 3 days? And what the fuck should I do when I'm running around all day? And where am I meant to fit all this around my incredibly busy week that's ram-packed? And that's exactly what the Ascension Forge is built around. We work out the time you've actually got to train. We make food simple so it's easy to stick to even at your busiest. And we stop your progress disappearing every time life throws a spanner in the works. And I want you to think about that just for a second. Forget what you're planning to do next Monday. Look back at the last 6 months. What have the last 6 months actually looked like? How many times have you told yourself you're going to sort it? How many decent weeks have been followed by 2 shit ones? How many times have you thought, oh, I just need work to calm down? I'll get Christmas out of the way. I'm going to start after the holiday. I'll have more time next month. Now imagine you repeat those exact same 6 months twice. Where are you this time next year? Because the uncomfortable answer isn't probably dramatically worse. It's almost probably more annoying than that. You're probably roughly where you are now, another year older, still frustrated when you take your top off, still not as fit as you think you could be, still starting again, still telling yourself you know what to do, and still waiting for life to calm down and give you permission to start when you actually need to. It won't. There's always going to be something. Work, kids, busyness, holidays, bad sleep, deadlines, Christmas, you name it. Some random Tuesday that randomly goes tits up, because guess what? That's life. Your life isn't getting in the way of the plan. Your plan needs to work with your fucking life. So if you're done waiting for life to calm down before you actually sort this, book a call via the link below. We'll look at where you are now, where you actually want to get to, and what's been getting in the way despite all the basics that you probably know already. Then we'll work out what your training's like, what your food's going to look like, and what your week actually needs to look like for you to make real progress without making fitness your entire personality. You'll leave knowing exactly what needs to change, even whether or not we end up working together. I only take a handful of these a week around coaching, so pick a time below and I'll see you there.